Hi, and welcome back to Recovery His Way on the campus of the His Way Recovery Center here in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm Stuart Whiting, sitting down with our director, Tom Reynolds. Again, hey, Tom.
Hello.
It's been a few weeks since we've talked together in this format.
Right.
And we're, all the holiday times and Thanksgiving and special events and the Christmas season, and it kind of throws us off our schedule. But it's a great season, though, to have all that happen.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, it's an exciting and challenging time. I think in recovery, a lot of, anytime you go through the holidays, I think it's a heightened time, right? It's a time in which people are more attuned. I've talked to people and counseled with people this last week, depressed because, this is the time of year that my grandmother died or this is something happened. So there's a lot of that kind of thing. There's also a lot of heightened enthusiasm on the other side. And so it's just kind of a heightened time.
I know there's a local group that reaches out to various, folks struggling with things, and they call their event right now, I think it's this week, Blue Christmas, because of how difficult it can be.
Right.
And I saw another report shared about how there's definitely been an uptick of substance abuse, reports and that kind of thing during this period. And it is a really sobering thought. To realize how a lot of people experience this time, and go into it with a dread instead of with some sort of expectation of good things.
And I know obviously the Christmas story, the original intention of God as He brings this incarnation of Christ is one of hope, and I love that. I don't think I've even appreciated how hopeful we are as a faith until you kind of go through these things and interact with people from other backgrounds and stuff, because Christianity is just fundamentally hopeful. I mean, the resurrection obviously is the ultimate declaration of hope, no matter how bad things look, even if there's a grave involved, that there's something on the other side of that and how powerful that is. So that sense of hope really resonates. And I think, nothing like the Christmas carols to celebrate that sense of hope and that type of thing. So I love this time of year because of the optimism, the hope, the anticipation that engages, I think, is so much a part of the Christian experience, and core to the gospel is that sense of hope.
Yeah, it's what the whole, one thing I've really appreciated in various Bible studies in the past couple of years is how that gospel good news message, sits atop all of the biblical story in such a really integrated way, and how the story from the get-go is that man on our own, we're going to fail, and we're going to hurt each other, we're going to hurt ourselves, and we don't know what's best for ourselves. And yet there's this seed of hope right there early in Genesis, and how it comes to fruition finally in the form of the Messiah King. And it's what a lot of what we've talked about here in the last couple of months about looking for something beyond us, something outside of ourselves. To be able to give us some hope.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, as we've been looking at these 12 steps of AA, how they are so embedded in Christianity, because there's a sense of hope and optimism throughout those steps in terms of addressing things, declaring faith, resolving issues, and having a sense of something to look forward to. And so as we come to the 12th step, the final step of AA, I think it's really one, and really the Christian message of evangelism, of hope, of gospel, sharing this good news that really is embedded in this 12th step. And I was thinking as we were getting started, there's a passage here in 1 Peter 3, verse 15, in which Peter says, "But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." So the whole idea of this is that evangelism, even in the gospel spreading, is born out of a life of optimism, a life of hope. People see a glimmer of hope, a light in you, and they want to know about that. Why are you so hopeful in a world that seems so dismal? There's something different about you. And certainly that's the picture Jesus paints when he talks about that we're a light set in a hill, that we are a city set out, bright and shining forth. That picture is one in which the gospel is this message of hope and light, and that it draws people, attracts people because of that.
Yeah, I think in the broader Christian context, of which, of course, all of this is being written, why is it that we don't maybe fully appreciate or really pursue this sharing of hope in that light versus darkness. I mean, when you're in a very, very dark place, that light is just so. I remember going to Cathedral Caverns here locally, and if you nod in your head like you've done this, and zero light at all, and he's like, hold your hand in front of your face in complete darkness, and then they have like a single match. They light a match, and it's just you can actually see to the end. And I don't know if I always feel or feel like we as a community of believers see ourselves in the role of this hope that comes into darkness.
Right.
That is.
And I think it's because we allow the world to define us instead of the gospel to define us so many times. I mean, I hear Christians talk more about how dark the world's becoming than how bright we can shine. I mean, to me, the good news of the negativity in our culture is that we should be therefore even brighter, right? I mean, it's like as the world around us darkens, it's kind of like that Cathedral Caverns. I mean, the darker and darker and darker it gets, it just means that our light gets to shine brighter and our influence becomes greater.
And not even very much light, just a little, really
just a
make
flicker.
An incredible difference, which of course is also consistent with Jesus' teaching. A little bit of faith, a little bit. And I also think in reflecting on it just right now, that I don't know if we really appreciate how dark the world is, and not from the standpoint we usually talk about that, but really, where people are, and you have already said it, that so many don't have hope. That there's something unique in the Christian message and faith about what hope really looks like. And maybe what we've been a part of that for so long, it's become very hard to appreciate, what it's like to not have that in your life. Right.
Yeah. And I think as you work through these steps and you get through step 10 and step 11, and now you're in 12, there's this sense in which now you've gone through a process in which now your light should be shining, and there should be a message, a life that is revealing something.
Well, why don't you read that? Read that out for us.
It's step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And so it kind of, because of the spiritual awakening that it recognizes these 11 steps are going to produce, the 12th step is now I'm in some level of spiritual awakening. Therefore, now I have kind of two obligations. One, to walk in it, and then two, to share that with others. And I think, as the passage I mentioned emphasizes, I think so many times we get those backwards, I think. I know in my Christian experience, I felt for a long time this obligation to go out and accost people with the gospel without necessarily living it before them. So they're asking the question about, tell me about this hope. Where now I find myself much more, my evangelistic efforts are more of a response to somebody asking me about my life or why I do what I do or what motivates me and those kind of things.
Yeah, for many, many decades, I think the typical church was, standing in front in their own building. Hey, come hear our good news. And where's really the opportunity or the onus for someone to ever ask, why are you like this? Why are you so different? But, I have seen a real shift in the last 10, 15 years of churches and community, being very community focused, we just need to be serving people. We need to express what's happened in us to others, bringing love and to other people and giving them hope. And then all of a sudden those questions do come up because they see a genuine, your own genuine response to what has happened in your life. And now it's like, well, that's really different.
Right. And that's one of the great things I think that's been a blessing here at His Way is, we have so many different churches and Christians reaching out to us saying, hey, I want to be involved in ministry in the community to hurting people. Can I help you? And they come alongside of us, get involved in various ways. We had a group come out a couple of nights ago from Twickenham that, brought dinner to the guys and just love on them and share that. And then pretty soon they're asking the questions about how the guys are now saying, how can I be a part of this? How can I be? And then that's when the opportunity to start sharing the gospel becomes a reality. But I think, so many times we get in this process, in these 12 steps, they become, we talk a lot of times about how it's a selfish process in the sense that I got to take care of myself. I got to deal with my issues. I got to grind down and deal with myself. But ultimately it produces a person who becomes very concerned about the benefit of others. That's why this 12th step is really about sharing this message with others, and living in such a way that I practice these principles, not only to keep myself healthy, which is an important part of it, but to continue to be a expression of what these values, these steps, this spiritual awakening is really about. And so it becomes a very outward focused type of thing. And I think so many times, and I try to help slow the guys down sometimes, because they get excited initially about what they're learning, and they want to immediately launch out and go get it, go out and share that with others. And I have to kind of slow them down and say, well, let's make sure you've worked through your own process first. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you can almost have kind of a premature start here, right, and jump into something you're not really ready for.
Yeah,
yet.
it's the 10-year-old who wants to help dad, work on the car, and it's like there's some things you may not be quite mature enough yet for, or whatever. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but it's like I'm really excited to be a part of this, and it's like, yeah, because there can become a real burden, a real load in reaching back and helping another person and starting to take some of their load with you, and yeah, that takes a little bit of maturity, but. Obviously, you don't want to be too dissuasive. You want to let it, be involved. Yeah. And I've always appreciated that you in this very formally within our program. Part of this is going to be you volunteering time, not specifically within the 12-step kind of way, but you're going to be serving other people, and you're going to be. And it's part of our program. So maybe it's not volunteering, but and because there's just inherent blessing and value in that. That's hard to see. You're going to take the easy way out, and it's like, well, I don't have time, or I don't feel like doing that. And then once you do it, you start to feel the blessing. So it's good that you're instilling that, our program's instilling that into the hearts and minds of our guys, even as they're working through where they are in their own recovery.
Right. And so ultimately, this Christian message, I think, that's built into the 12 steps ultimately becomes a message of taking this hope to the next person, right? Mm-hmm. And I know with our guys even, every morning, I ask for prayers, and most mornings somebody will say, let's pray for those still out there, sick and suffering, that are still trapped in this terrible plight of addiction, and so there's this always constant feeling that we're concerned for them. We're concerned for the next guy. We want to give that hope to somebody else. In fact, we had a guy come in the program recently, and he's homeless. And we met him, actually my son met him at a church that he was attending. And Andrew went up to him on a Sunday morning, having heard his story a little bit and listened to him, just kind of went up to him and said, hey, I got a place where I think could help you. Would you be willing to go? And, a few days later, it actually worked out that he could come. And he's been here a couple of weeks now. And every day almost he is teary-eyed talking about why did Andrew come to me? What did he see in me? Why did he choose me? And why do I get such a blessing? We've been looking at the Mary story and how Mary's like, why have I been chosen as God's favorite here? Why? Right. And he's like, oh yeah, I feel that because I've had that opportunity too. Yeah. God somehow has chosen me to be a part of this, and I want to share this with others. And so happens, another guy that he's associated with from the path of life he's been in, he's kind of connected with recently here, and he's kind of telling him and trying to guide him through this process, hopefully, optimistically wanting to share the great things he's experiencing. And that's, there's nothing better than getting yourself positioned in these 12 steps, really getting you positioned to where you have something to offer. I mean, a lot of people I meet in the world, they don't have that. They don't, they don't have anything to offer. There's nothing. What I have in my life that I want to give to somebody else?
It seems like at best it might be a shared experience around a sports team or around a show I'm watching. That's become a huge thing. I noticed at a lot of family gatherings and we're all talking about what shows we watch and that kind of thing. And it does, and I'm a part of that at some level, but it also, I feel that, this is just, at the end of the day, it's pretty of no value. Right. It's just vanity in that sense where it's not meaningful. And that's a real shame. And I was thinking about the guys as they become really excited and wanting to do something for those others. We've had some just in the last few months that have put money towards other people's entry fees and so really, sacrificing so that they can see that hope spread to others. And that's really heartwarming. And I say this, and I know I've said it here at one point, that it's amazing to see it happening, but at the same time, and when the Spirit and the power of the Spirit moves and real things are happening, it's almost what we would expect.
Sure.
Because it is that transformative. The light is so much different than the darkness.
Right. And I mean, the guys this Sunday, a number of the guys here they've collected money and they're going out and buying things for the homeless. And they're going to go out, and I think they have raising near about $1,500, and they're just getting, sleeping bags, blankets, food items, whatever's needed, and they're going to go out to the homeless camps and share that. And they're so excited about it because they're going to share a hope that they have because of something that God's doing in their life that they want to share and reveal that to others in the way they live, and the way they care, and the way they engage. And so that's what it's about. And I just,
and what a powerful testimony, to interrupt, that some of the guys who are a part of the group going have been in these places, know people in these places, and you couldn't have a greater testimony to those to say, hey, there is a path out of here. And the homeless issue is a very complex one, and we work with other organizations in town that that's their primary focus, and yet to be a resource on part of those paths to say, hey, come. Get here. We can help with your substance abuse and also your whole identity in life. And we always want to address the whole man and legal problems and all those things. But to see it from someone who may have been, with you 3 months ago and where they are now, and with this hope that just can't help but burst forth in your countenance is really wonderful.
It's just so critical to me that, the reality is anything that happens good in our lives ultimately should bear the fruit of evangelism, right? I mean, if you buy a car and you love it, you can't help but tell other people about this great deal you got on a car. And, pretty soon you're pointing people to the same car, the same maybe salesperson or whatever, or you eat a certain food and you love it, restaurant you like, you want to tell everyone about it. I mean, how appropriate that this life transforming message of the gospel as it's practiced in these 12 steps ultimately yields this focus on, I want to make sure everybody knows about this. I want to make, and obviously, like in anything, we surround ourselves with people that share the common life experience. So most people who struggle with addiction, their friends are people who struggle with addiction. Most people who are homeless have friends who are homeless, right? And so those become the people that we have now an opportunity, not just to share the message with, but to reveal the message through the life that now has been changed that they see. And I think about these guys that go back to these homeless camps and they go, wow, you're completely different than when you left here. And what's happened to you, and how can I have some of that? And that becomes the opportunity to share this hope.
Yeah, and I love to hear also stories of guys out in their workforce, that are here, that are part of the program, that are evangelizing the message there too. One of the folks who came and served with Twickenham said they went through a place of business, and one of the guys recognized him from having visited Twickenham and said, oh yeah, we met and I'm at his way, and just saying how much he's being blessed by being here, and not ashamed of, the walk he's on right now in the journey. And I know that happens in a number of different ways. I know it happens with our crews that work in construction. They're like, we want to be on a crew that's, we're not, being led into other paths. We don't want to be guys that are hanging windows for a living and they let all their customers know, we're part of this His Way group, and this is, what the journey we're on, and to not, again, be ashamed of the fact that they're going through this process. And man, they are ready. They are just ready to share and to let people know the hope that they have within them. Like you said, you can't help.
I mean, if you have good news, you can't not share it, right? The problem in most Christian circles is we don't appreciate the good news we have in the first place. And some of that's because we're not engaged in the world like we should be. Some of it's that we haven't maybe experienced or have forgotten about the darkness that we have once felt. And so we lose touch with that. And so I think it's just so important to it's great for me to be in this environment every day and be reminded again and recognize how good this news is. I think, the gospel is obviously a transformative message. It's transformed my life, transformed your life, and we get to watch it transform the lives of so many here.
Yeah, so we're finishing up this 12 steps, and we've noted at almost every point how this does just lay over into the gospel message. And it's no wonder then that the 12th step is very much ending in the same tenor and tone of how the gospel message ends, that it is now for you to go take this message and share it with
into all
others.
The world, right?
Yeah,
share the gospel.
Yeah, and you know, I was reviewing that idea, the Great Commission, making disciples, and I think for so long we made disciples of a way of doing church, right? We made disciples of having the right, you know, maybe intellectual understanding on a few points of differences of other believers, but to really be making disciples of Jesus and the hope that you can have. That I think of a great speaker. You know, he said Jesus didn't come to make bad people good. He came to make dead people alive. And to really see, you know, that's what discipleship is about: a true living with a hope. And not just, oh, I'm a little bit better of a person. That comes in the transforming process. And I think that's unfortunately been our message for a long time. Hey, you just need to be a little bit better than you are. And that's not what light versus dark is really about.
And that's the message that most of our guys have gotten through Christianity typically, is they're bad people that need to be better. And that being so that the gospel message becomes about a moral equation in which you're now improving your moral position in society. It's not a spiritual position. It's not a death to life proposition, which is what our guys are really discovering in the gospel. That's exciting to see.
So in reflecting on the end of the 12 steps, I also thought, man, we have a group of guys working in this staff who have been doing it for a number of years, who, boy, do they live this out. And how amazing a testimony they are to be here to new guys coming in, trying to figure out if there's a path forward, if there's any hope. Maybe there's a glimmer over here, I don't even know. But our house managers, our staff who have been walking in recovery, who have given their whole being almost over to this ministry, is an incredible testimony to the power of this process.
Absolutely. And it's no better way. You know, they say this in AA, we say, I think, in Christianity too. And I said it when we started this program. The best way to get this program is to make sure you're in a position to give it away. You know, when you start giving it away and sharing it with others, that's what really makes it embedded in you. And I think that's what most Christians never really ultimately get to, but where we all need to be at is where we are sharing this message. You know, what a great purpose in life if every day you wake up and you're thinking about, how can I share about the hope that I have within me every day, that I reveal it as an accountant, as a barista, whatever I'm doing, I'm sharing this hope and people are asking me about it, and that gives me my opportunity to testify. And that should be a constant part of all of our pursuits, is being in that position.
Okay, so as we close down on the 12 steps, we're all left with this challenge to live your hope out. It's not even a challenge, like you said. It's bearing fruit. It's living in the hope and appreciating God's grace and letting that shine through. And what a great time of year to do this, alongside the message that people are a little more attuned to, and to say, here's what it has meant to me. Here's what it's meant to me. So it's a great way for us to kind of end the season in this 12-step journey. Where do we want to go next?
I think one of the things I would really like for us to do is now begin to kind of continue to dive a little deeper into these steps. I would really like to maybe have some of our guys that have walked various one of these steps talk about how those steps have influenced them, how their lives have changed because of, coming to believe that power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, to making amends, to those kind of just the steps and how they're practically walking them out and how they're practically experiencing the fruit of those things, because I think these guys have real life things. These have been transformative principles in their life, and I'd like to really kind of see it at the grassroots level and see what it looks like.
That sounds great. Firsthand eyewitness testimony to the power is always a great way to experience.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad we got to sit down again. Enjoyed this topic, and we'll continue on. And thank you for joining us. If you have any questions about the His Way Recovery Program, we invite you to visit our website at hiswayinc.org.